Lindsay, thank you so much for. I apologise for interrupting you on the last video. I've been corrected, so I'm not going to do it this time.
Not at all.
Now, I know you've been having some really interesting discussions with your Brazilian colleagues on mouthwashes.
Yes.
I'm intrigued. Tell us whatever you like.
Yes, so this is very curious because previous to this, I had not thought of mouthwashes as possibly being effective against SARS-CoV-2. So I came across this study from the University of São Paulo, and their clinical studies have yet to be, they're actually in peer review right now. But they have come across a very interesting discovery. So they had this dye, and it's called phthalocyanine blue. Okay, and so this is a dye that is not active. Okay, and they took this dye to their laboratories, and they were able to manipulate it in a way that I'll show you the phthalocyanine. Here you go. That's the molecule.
Cool, and that's a particular color, is it?
Yes, phthalocyanine blue.
Okay.
So this comes from a family of different dyes that are bioactive, okay? But usually they are activated from being exposed to light, okay? So the people in the University of São Paulo, they took this dye to their lab, and I don't know what they did to it because this is now under patent. And they were able to manipulate it in a way that it did become antiviral, and they are seeing that now in clinical trials. Now, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, they observed that this product was already antimicrobial. They were going to market it as being used for bad breath, okay? And there was one other thing they were using it for tissue regeneration, okay? And so they had this product, and it was ready to go, and it was already approved by, say, the equivalent of the FDA in Brazil, which is called Anvisa. So it was approved, it was ready to go, and then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and they started studying this mouthwash against SARS-CoV-2. So in vitro, it was shown to be 96% effective in inactivating the virus. Okay. Yeah. And then what they did is they went to clinical trials. Are you with me, John?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am.
Okay. So they went into clinical trials. They started with just a few people, and then their main trial that's now being peer reviewed, they had 41 people that were PCR positive in hospital. So half of those, and this was a triple blind study, okay? Half of the people received a placebo, and half the people received a mouthwash. Now, it's interesting that they observed that about 40% of positive cases of people present with mouth ulcers. I did not know that part. That
really?
Yeah, and so they think that mouth ulcers could be a symptom of COVID-19 infection. So, and they also know that the virus does take up residence in, we know the respiratory tract, but sure, also in the salivary glands and in the throat, and that's why you see mouth ulcers. I didn't know that. Okay. So half of the people in hospital received a placebo, and half of the people received the mouthwash, and they had to use it as a rinse, but also a gargle. Okay. And the results that they have had were that there was a great reduction in the length of hospital stay in the people that used the mouthwash. And then the people that were in the placebo group, actually, I think a third of them went on to ICU, and half of them did pass away. So this was a quite remarkable evidence. And now they are expanding into different trials in different areas of Brazil. They are using this in hospitals for healthcare workers because they're trying to see if it's preventative. And they're also using it in a small community in Brazil called Uru. It's a community of, I think, about 1,500 people. They're trying to see if they know that this mouthwash can reduce the severity of disease by reducing viral load, but they do not know if it can reduce transmission and be preventative. But this, and the study link is up on, we'll put it up on this page. Very, very interesting. And the product is called Phthalux, the product that they've engineered. So it was a very, very interesting interview. And one other thing that I didn't realize was that countries like Japan, they actually have been telling their populations, whenever there's a respiratory virus or anything like that in a population, they say social distance, wear a mask, wash your hands, and use mouthwash.
So I didn't know that. This is so interesting.
And
then that's part of Japanese culture, is it?
It is, and even in Vietnam, that is something that they've been doing, and we know that Vietnam has been very successful in containing this virus. I think in Japan, from what I remember, I think they've seen a 78% increase in use of mouthwash and mouthwash sales since this thing started. So it's a simple solution. And I know that there are other studies with other mouthwashes, but from what I've seen, they are in vitro. And this is an in vivo randomized controlled trial that is showing incredible efficacy. So definitely something to keep our eye on.
And so simple.
Yes.
When I first heard this, I thought the virus is in the nasal passages. It's in the oropharynx, where you can't do a mouthwash, you'd choke to death. So I thought if it's restricted to the mouth, even when you're gargling, it's still only going around the tonsils and the adenoids. It's not going into the oropharynx. Otherwise, you'd be gagging. So I thought it's not getting to where the virus is. But now it seems there's so much virus in the mouth. And also, the other thing that occurred to me is when you're gargling and mouthwashing, you're breathing in the fumes, which are going into the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the trachea and the bronchial passages, and right down to the alveoli. So there's probably some molecules going down from that, if it's in a more gaseous form.
And that's what Dr. Villana, who I interviewed, I did ask him about that. And he said that it is important that you use this not only as a rinse, but as a gargle, because when you gargle, you will produce aerosols that can get into the nasopharynx area. So they are testing this as a nasal spray. They're testing it as an oral spray because they're trying to see, do you really need to, how much of it do you need for it to be effective? And so, I also found that to be quite intriguing because it's something that I hadn't understood until I asked the question.
I did not know gargling caused aerosolization. That is right, fascinating. Now, you've said this is effective in vitro. Now, that just means in laboratory conditions, doesn't it? Literally in glass, where you can use high concentrations.
That's right.
And we've seen this with other medicines where they're effective in vitro, in the lab, but that doesn't transpond into the human body, into the in vivo, in life situation. But this does seem to be working because it's reducing the overall viral load. Suppose only 10% of the viruses that are infecting the body are in the mouth. If you can reduce that, then you're reducing the viral load by 10%, just to make up a silly number. It could be 20%. Who knows? So this is actually sort of coming together and making sense now. It's and
it may prohibit the virus from disseminating throughout the body, right? So if it's housed in the salivary glands, it's housed in the respiratory tract, and we can attack that before it disseminates. It might be quite crucial to treatment, actually.
Absolutely. And all the time when we're lowering the viral load, there's some viral antigenic material still there. So you're still getting the stimulation of the immune system.
Yes.
So the 4, 5, 6, 7 days it takes for a good immune response to kick in is achieved when we've got a lower viral load. So it's kind of the same rationale, really, as protecting myself from an infected person wearing a mask. I get a lower viral load. It tends to be in the upper respiratory tract. That gives my immune system more time to make resistance.
That's right.
Before the virus is getting down to my lower tract. So therefore, it makes perfect sense that could reduce severity of disease, because it's when the virus gets into the lungs and the lung tissue and the alveoli that's going to cause more severe disease. So it all makes a lot of sense. There's an old-fashioned principle you'll probably remember, Lindsay, called variolation.
Yes.
For smallpox, where they gave people very small doses of smallpox to generate immunity. Not always a good idea. Some people died from it. But the principle is, the lower the viral load you can get, the more opportunity the immune system has to start doing its thing and start getting cracking, producing immunity before it's diffused into more sensitive tissues of the body. I like it a lot. So they knew this mouthwash was antibacterial.
Yes.
And and halitosis, bad breath, is largely caused by bacterial deposition in the mouth. So that's why we use mouthwashes, and it's good. And also, we know that mouth bacteria are related to a host of other diseases now, don't we?
Yes.
Inflammatory diseases, a whole range of inflammatory diseases, even atheroma, in the arteries. Can be related to dental hygiene, so that's interesting. But my question is, this preparation that your colleagues are using in Brazil, I can't go out and buy it yet, but
No,
I would like to get the protection that you're discussing.
I
So,
would too.
so is there antiviral mouthwashes that we can? I mean, are most mouthwashes that we use antibacterial, or are they antiviral as well?
So I know that there have been some studies, particularly the one that I can recall right now is with Listerine, Cool Mint, I believe, and there it is showing some efficacy in vitro. And I did ask Dr. Vilena about other mouthwashes, and I know that in Japan they have been using an iodine formulation that seems to be somewhat effective, but it's not very. It doesn't sound like it would be very palatable. And so this product sounds like it's much more palatable. I actually have a family member in Brazil who actually got some of this and has been using it, and they said it's actually even easier to use than regular mouthwash. It doesn't give you that stinging sensation. It's quite pleasant. However, no, we cannot get it right now outside of Brazil. There's huge demand for it, and then there are regulatory issues in getting it out of the country. Yeah. So that is a challenge right now. But for right now, I don't see any problem with people using some kind of a mouthwash as an addition to mask wearing and all of the other public health precautions that we are taking right now. I think that there may be something to it.
I do. I mean, a regular mouthwash that you buy from the supermarket shelf or from a pharmacist, that's routine. It's not going to do you any harm. I don't think we're not promoting iodine on this, because a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a minority of people can be allergic to iodine. So we would always advise people to consult their doctor or pharmacist personally first, of course. Always. But having said that, I've been in areas of the world where the water supply wasn't drinkable.
Yes.
And what I would do is I would get a couple of liters of what was basically dirty water. Yeah. Put in just a couple of drops of iodine, leave it overnight and drink it. And it did taste good, but it was drinkable. But as a mouthwash, it would have been fine with very low volumes of iodine in, because iodine kills everything.
Yes, iodine we use it as a surgical antiseptic, right?
Every bacteria, every virus, iodine. There's two things that kill everything. There's iodine and silver.
Yes, silver.
They'll kill absolutely everything. So, well, what about low-dose hydrogen peroxide, Lindsay? Is that antiviral? Do you know?
Yeah, I did ask him about that, and my understanding with hydrogen peroxide in general is that we don't use it anymore on healthy tissue, because it can possibly damage healthy tissue. And I don't really know in the mouth. I know that some people have been using it, but as far as efficacy and antiviral effect, I am not sure about that right now.
It would be a very dilute solution if you were using it at all, but okay, so perhaps not the way to go. So I'm certainly going to carry on using my regular mouthwashes that I buy from a supermarket shelf that my dentist recommended, and that is. I love things that are simple.
Yes, I know.
Accessible to the whole wide world.